These are the most dangerous gang leaders, reacting to life sentences.
You gutted him like a fish in that apartment too. You were relentless. You stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed until he was dead. I agree with the family. I hope you die in prison as well. You know, if this was a death penalty state, you'd be getting the chair.
I wish I could give you more time than I can because I think you're a cold-blooded killer. I hope you never get out of jail.
I will break out soon, and I will kill more.
This is one of the most egregious cases I've ever had, and you're going to spend the rest of your natural life in prison. Hopefully someday you'll think about that. Get him out of here. I'm done.
Man. I didn't do anything wrong, man.
They were grown men. My brother was 15.
I don't know what am I gonna do without him.
You may think that joining a gang is gonna help you get money or protection, but in the end, it will destroy you.
This is Yonaiki Martinez Estrella, who was facing murder charges in New York City.
I don't want to see another mother never to lose his son in the way I lose my son, Junior. I don't want to see nobody go through that.
On the night of June 20th, 2018, Yonaiki, along with Manuel Rivera, Elvin Garcia, Jose Muniz, and Antonio Santiago, brutally stabbed and killed 15-year-old Lisandro Guzman Feliz.
All of these men, and I say men, took part in one of the most disturbing murders that this city and this nation has ever seen.
All five were part of a vicious Dominican gang called the Trinitarios. According to reports, Lisandro had gone to meet a new friend a few blocks away from his apartment in the Bronx when 4 cars pulled up. Mistaking him for a rival gang member, the cars started chasing Lisandro, eventually cornering him to a nearby bodega. CCTV footage from inside the shop shows a desperate Lisandro seeking refuge and trying to hide behind a counter. But he was spotted by one of the gang members. A scuffle ensued, and Lisandro was dragged out of the bodega.
I remember his face. He was so scared, and I tried to hold it down, and he jumped up. The other people that coming for him, they saw him, he was already there.
What happened next shocked the entire city of New York. Armed with large knives and machetes, the 5 took turns, brutally stabbing the teenager. Then fled away in getaway cars. After the attack, a severely injured Lisandro managed to enter the shop, but was sent away. Outside and fading fast, he gestured towards onlookers to call 911. Then he started running towards St. Barnabas Hospital, which was just 1 blind walk away, before collapsing at the entrance. Passers-by desperately tried to save Lisandro. However, 2 police officers just stood by watching the scene. They were later investigated for failing to help. Just 20 minutes later, Lisandro passed away as a result of a fatal stab wound to his neck. Police soon got hold of the CCTV footage and arrested the 5 suspects, charging them with first-degree murder.
Police have arrested the 5 suspects accused in the murder of this teenager in the Bronx.
At their trial, a 6th member of the Trinitarios gang, Kevin Alvarez, testified against the 5 murderers.
Kevin Alvarez's arrest, he's testifying in court against 5 of his fellow alleged Trinitarios gang members.
Alvarez, who had helped drag Lisandro out of the bodega, identified the suspects in exchange for lesser time served for conspiracy charges. Eventually, the jury convicted the 5 gang members for the brutal murder of Lisandro Guzman Feliz. At their sentencing, the killers showed no signs of remorse. Instead, they waved gang signs and shouted gang slogans. Yonike Estrella, who delivered the fatal blow, was sentenced to life without parole. Jose Muniz, Elvin Garcia, and Antonio Santiago each received 25 years to life, while Manuel Rivera was sentenced to 23 years to life in prison.
I'm still waiting for the divine justice. The divine justice has to come for them too.
Lisandro Guzman Feliz lost his life for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, which is not the case when a rash of retaliation shootings happen between 2 rival gangs. Like in the case of Julius Webster. This is Julius Webster. He's a ringleader in the Heartless Felons street gang. A full gallery inside the courtroom for Julius Webster's murder trial. Most of the people, friends, and family of Curtis Marks Jr., who was shot and killed on August 29, 2013. 28-year-old Webster is charged with aggravated murder and robbery in Mark's death, plus faces additional charges of kidnapping, theft, escape, and intimidation related to other crimes. The trial began with a jury view taking the 12 jurors and 2 alternates out to 2 of the crime scenes. This one, Fly High nightclub near 70th and Superior, is where prosecutors say Webster robbed and killed Marks.
He said, I'm going to count to 3. He counted to 3. He shot him anyway.
Webster wanted to go along to the site, prompting unprecedented security measures. A dozen SWAT officers in an armored car guarding jurors, and Webster, who never left the vehicle. Inside the courtroom, more heightened security with sheriff's deputies in bulletproof vests, extra metal detectors, and a ban on cell phones. Prosecutors say Webster is one of the leaders of the Heartless Felons, a street gang with statewide ties, the defense saying otherwise.
He's not charged with being a gang member. He's not charged with anything other than what you had read to you by Mr. Filiatro. And those charges cannot be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
Julius Webster was found guilty in the murder of Curtis Marks. After the verdict, County Prosecutor Tim McGinty revealed that at least 2 death threats against Judge Michael Astrab had been received. The investigation of those threats led to William Hammonds, a fellow member of the Heartless Felons gang. Hammonds currently serving a life sentence for murder. The judge refused to be intimidated by the gang members who threatened him and his family, and he sentenced Julius Webster to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 99 years. Before being sentenced, Curtis Marks' family had a chance to address the court and the man responsible for killing their loved one. The judge had some words for Webster, as well after handing down the sentence saying Webster needs to be removed from society.
And appears to be of the position that he, along with other members of the Heartless Felons, are above the law, or that the law for some reason does not apply to him or to them.
When asked if he wanted to talk, Webster simply said, "I'm fine." But if Webster was a leader of a gang, what happens to it now that he's off the streets?
Do not expect this young, violent gang to go away. That's what the founder of the Crips gang in Cleveland told me this evening. In fact, he believes it'll be business as usual.
When you have these children today, you're battling a local Al-Qaeda or ISIS. These children have nothing to lose and they're not afraid to die. That's why they do the type of things that they do.
There are children all over Northeast Ohio who are members of the Heartless Felons. A growing number of them are out on our streets. They're also in our prisons, and their credibility is determined by the level of crimes they commit. Twan Billings knows all of this firsthand.
With the membership that they got and the manpower that they got, they can reach you from inside and outside.
Billings has counseled Heartless Felons to try to get them out of the gang. That's after he turned his life around, spending 13 years as head of the Crips in Cleveland, with more than 250 gang members underneath him. When asked about Julius Webster, the head of the Heartless Felons who was sentenced to life in prison for murder, this is what he said.
I guarantee you 90% of the members don't even know who he is.
Billings said that the Heartless Felons, albeit powerful, have leaders in each neighborhood, and that the impact of Julius Webster is hardly noticeable.
It ain't like these children sit at TV and get the current events and care about what's going on, you know, what the courts or what the prosecutor or anybody else got to say. They're going to continue the business. The operation of the business is to continue fear.
Twun says the way to help curb the gang problem is to work with local leaders, parents, and police to develop innovative plans to reach at-risk kids. While the impact of Julius Webster is hardly noticeable on the Heartless Felons gang, what happens when the leader of a biker gang gets caught is shocking. This is Joseph Lancia. He was the president of the Hells Angels biker gang in Rhode Island. The 30-year-old Lancia is facing attempted murder charges after he fired a gun at a truck that was driven by Richard Starnino. Starnino, once considered a prospect for joining the Hells Angels, was engaged in an ongoing dispute with Lancia. Authorities said no one was injured in the incident, but the situation could have been far worse.
The bullet struck the passenger side of the vehicle. No one was injured. It should be noted that there were children in the area at that time, and there is a school across the street from the location of this shooting.
Astonishingly, Starnino not only survived, but he kept on driving and finished his deliveries. After the incident, a massive raid was conducted at the Hells Angels headquarters.
Anyone inside 161 Messer Street? This is the state police. Come on with your hands up. Do it now.
Some gang members were arrested and taken into custody. Lancia, too, was arrested. However, as part of a plea agreement, the more severe charges of attempted murder were dropped. Instead, Lancia pleaded no contest to felony assault and battery.
30-year-old Joseph Lancia changed his plea from not guilty to no contest.
At his sentencing, several members of Hells Angels came in full support for their president. Lancia was given a chance to speak, which he refused.
Is there anything that you would like to say, sir?
Nothing.
However, Judge Kirsten Rogers had some words for Lancia.
Should you not appear in a timely manner, and I'm talking 5 minutes late, or if there are any violations of your release.
She also ordered him to stay away from the victim.
There is a no contact order for the protection of Richard Starnino for the duration of 8 years.
Eventually, it was time for Lancia to learn his fate.
A 5-year full sentence, all of which is to be served at the ACI.
Lancia was ultimately sentenced to 5 years in prison, plus 10 years of probation. While Joseph Lancia's victim lived to tell his tale. Keandra Duff wasn't that lucky. This is Tariq Jackson, who's on trial for murder in Michigan. Jackson was 16 when he allegedly pulled out a gun and opened fire after a fight broke out between two Ypsilanti gangs in 2015. The bullet hit 20-year-old Keandra Duff in the head, instantly killing him. Jackson, now 18, was facing multiple charges, including open murder. He was set to go to trial, but eventually pled guilty to second-degree murder. Things got emotional at his sentencing when the victim's mother directly addressed Jackson.
Our whole world was turned upside down from that point.
She said his actions had changed her life forever.
You changed our lives forever. You took it upon yourself to end my son's life.
But shockingly, she forgave her son's killer and showed sympathy towards him, addressing him as a young man who had dreams.
Well, he forgives you. And I forgive you. I don't hate you. And then they sent me a picture of Mr. Jackson. And when I looked at him, I said, Lord Jesus, this is somebody's baby. This is a young man who had dreams to be more than what he became. And if anything, Father God, in the name of Jesus.
She then asked for Jackson's mother and had some words of comfort for her.
Is Tariq's mother in here? Mom, come here. Your son is still going to be a great man. All he has to do is give it to the Lord.
Then in a heartfelt moment, the two mothers shared a hug in the courtroom. Jackson was also given a chance to address the court, where he apologized to the victim's family.
First off, I just want to say sorry to the family of the victim. I wish the situation would have played out like that. I never thought that my choices and decisions would have affected so many people. No mother deserves to bury her son, and no mother deserves to see her son change.
He said he got involved in gang activities when was young and took full responsibility for his crimes.
I was 16 at the time of the incident. I was young, angry, full of pride, caught in the streets and in the middle of gangs and all type of other stuff. And I felt like, that was the best choice for me to make. But today I don't think that was the best choice. But I take the full responsibility for my actions and I'm ready to face the consequences.
He also warned other gang members to learn from his mistakes and change their ways.
The life that we was living, being in gangs and all that other stuff, it ain't worth 16 years or death, because eventually you be put in a situation and there's severe consequences that come with that.
Then he ended his statement with some words of encouragement for his family.
My family, I just want to say, don't cry, this isn't a funeral. My life is far from over. They can lock my body, but they can't lock my mind. It's going to be a long tunnel I have to walk through, but I always stay focused at the light at the end.
Ultimately, Jackson was sentenced to 17 to 40 years in prison for the murder of Keandra Duff. Tariq Jackson's youthful exuberance took the life of a youngster. But what happens when a popular music artist is killed in broad daylight, like in the case of Jahseh Onfroy?
I may have this facade that everybody thinks it is X per se, but behind this facade, there's a whole different person.
This is Jahseh Onfroy. The rapper popularly known as XXXTentacion was killed during a robbery in Florida.
People don't want to fight no more. So that's, even that's not a conversation no more. Because if I say anything to a nigga and they got a pistol on them and they fear me, they're going to put a bullet in my brain right in there, fighting me. I'm not looking for a fight, nor was I. I just did it because I had to sometimes.
On June 18, 2018, 20-year-old Onfroy was out shopping for a motorcycle with his step-uncle Leonard Kerr. Earlier that day, Onfroy withdrew about $50,000 from the bank to make his purchase. The young rapper was unaware he was being stalked by four men: Michael Boatwright, Trayvon Newsom, Dedrick Williams, and Robert Allen. Williams and Allen even followed Onfroy into a dealership to confirm that it was indeed the rapper. Then as he left the shop, Onfroy's car was intercepted by a black SUV. Armed with guns and faces covered with a mask, Boatwright and Newsom stepped out of the SUV and robbed Onfroy at gunpoint. A scuffle ensued and the two ended up fatally shooting the rapper before grabbing his bag of cash and fleeing. A passerby filmed the immediate aftermath of the attack and called 911. Another captured Onfroy's lifeless body in the driver's seat of his BMW. The tragic incident left the hip-hop industry in shock, with popular artists like Diplo and J. Cole paying tribute to the teenage sensation.
Jahseh was loved by his family and friends all over this world, and you guys murdered him and left a gaping hole in each person's heart.
Shortly afterwards, the four were arrested and charged with first-degree murder and armed robbery.
You are charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree.
However, Robert Allen took a plea deal in exchange for his testimony in the trial of the other three, which began with the prosecution claiming that Onfroy's murder was pre-planned and efficient.
3561. So ask yourselves, that's more than enough time to formulate the premeditated intent and the design to kill someone and the killing.
Boatwright's lawyer suggested that Robert Allen, who was yet to testify against the three, would lie in court.
Robert Allen is the only person that you will hear from that puts Michael Boatwright at Riva Motorsports on June 18th, 2018. Well, let me be very clear. If Robert Allen testifies in this case, he will lie.
Then Williams' lawyer incredibly threw accusations at popular hip-hop artist Drake, arguing that the Grammy award-winning rapper was to be blamed for Onfroy's death.
Before X died, he said, if anybody kills me, it's Drake. And do you think that for one moment, here today, days after the event, he's killed by 2 masked men, right? He came out on social media and said, guys, before he dies, if anybody kills me, it's Drake. Do you think in that time span that they went and they addressed him, they talked to him? No. Do you think sitting here today, years later, any detective has ever asked, Drake or anybody like that? No.
He also accused Robert Allen of getting paid by Drake.
How much money in 2018 did you receive from either Drake or one of Drake's associates?
I never met Drake before.
You never met Drake?
No.
Do you know who he is, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Finally, Newsom's lawyer appeared last, stating that no physical evidence linked his client to the crime.
The evidence will not show that any firearm was ever recovered that could be matched or linked to Trayvon Newsom. The evidence will show no DNA whatsoever found on the body of Mr. Onfroy or on that car.
However, he was wrong. The prosecution presented a boatload of evidence in court, including CCTV footage from the crime scene. But it was 3 pieces of damning evidence that settled the case. First was the testimony of Onfroy's step-uncle, Leonard Kerr, who fled the scene of the shooting. He described what actually happened that day.
Taller guy, as I tell you, the taller guy went round to Jassay's side. The shorter one now come round to the door that I was, my door that I opened, and he go inside the car. And then I heard something like, "Hey! Hey!" How much time I don't know, but I heard something like explode.
Kerr also reenacted the moment Onfroy was shot.
You don't come out the effing car. And he was like with a gun. You don't come out the effing car. The shorter one was at Jassay's side.
The second crucial piece of evidence was pictures and videos captured the day of the shooting, showing the defendants posing and dancing with stolen money.
It shows Williams fanning $100 bills and surrounded by money. And this video taken at 12:35 a.m. This time Williams appears to be in a car, also fanning $100 bills, smiling and singing.
And finally, the testimony of Robert Allen ultimately sealed the deal.
As he grabbed the bag, shots are fired.
Who shoots the shots that are fired?
Michael Boatwright.
And who does he shoot?
Triple X.
Where does he shoot him from? What side of the car?
Driver.
Allen claimed that Newsom grabbed the bag of money. Boatwright shot Onfroy, and Williams was the getaway driver as he sat in the car. Unsurprisingly, the trio were convicted of all charges and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Michael Boatwright received an additional life sentence plus 30 years, as he was the one who pulled the trigger on Onfroy. As for Robert Allen, his plea deal meant a reduced sentence of 7 years in prison, plus 20 years probation for second-degree murder.